Hello, welcome to Local Chats. I am Lewis Adams. I am here with Julius Porlai. How you doing?
Good, thank you, Lewis.
For those who don't know you, would you like to talk about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm actually retired. Have been for about 4 years. Been involved with since my retirement with the Bendigo Blues and Roots Music Festival, and also in public radio since 1983, doing a particular music show starting on 3CCC, then to KLFM. And I do run the Blues Tram, as well.
Do you want to talk a bit about your show?
Public radio never interested me. I never heard anything about it, but back in the early 80s, when a lot of it did start, with 3CCC was, I'm pretty sure, the first regional licensee with public radio back about 1981 or 82. And I'd always had an interest in blues music, and suddenly someone came along, and I remember seeing an advertisement somewhere about they wanted presenters to present specific music shows, and I thought, this is fantastic. So I put my hand up, put a resume in, and we had a training process, and I went to about 1983 from the Harcourt Railway Station with a show called Track of the Blues, which started, I'm pretty sure, on a Sunday night, moved to Saturday, moved to Friday. Eventually it settled on a Thursday night, and then it's been going since 1983, and then I moved to KLFM, would have been probably about 10 years ago. Yeah, that's still on Thursday nights now, between 7 and 9.
Let's talk about the Blues Tram. How did that start out?
Well, actually, that was an idea that someone suggested when we were walking through the park prior to the very first Bendigo Blues and Roots Music Festival. We were doing a survey in Roslyn Park where we were going to set everything up, and I figured who it was, but the tram went past and someone mentioned the tram, and I thought, how unique is that? We need a point of difference for the festival. I'd heard about the Queenscliff Blues train, So I actually went on that, and a guy called Hugo T. Armstrong, who's from 3PBS Public Radio for many years. Rhythms magazine actually runs that and has successfully for 20 years. I thought, well, the point of difference for Bendigo is one of the points of difference is a tram. We've got a tram, so could we do a similar thing on the tram, except it's smaller? We'd have to modify the tram. So I went to see the tramways, and they were very, very helpful. They were fantastic to work with. We had 2 trams that we modified to be able to use with a stage in the middle, pretty much. Yep. A good sound system, a good battery system to run everything. And we're also doing a restaurant-type tram in conjunction with Rocks on Roslyn, where we have food at Rocks on Roslyn. We have entertainment on the tram, the food at Rocks on Roslyn, and the same entertainers they have on the tram are down at Rocks on Roslyn. So we've done one of those, and there's a second one coming up in September.
Oh, that sounds really cool. I didn't actually know that there was food coming onto the trams as well.
It's not on the tram. We tried that food. They're only small. We carry about 40 people, and there's no room for food.
Yes.
So what we do is we actually start with 2 of the entertainers. We do an hour on the tram, and we pick people up at the fountain, and then we drop them off back there, and those same 2 musicians go down and play at Rocks on Roslyn while they have a 3 or 4 course meal. It's all part of the package.
As you touched on, it's a very unique thing. Obviously, there is the blues train, which it is a bit of a precedent for it, but Bendigo is one of the few places in the world that is so rich with tram history, so it's good to see that being applied to, I guess, across the culture.
And we were lucky we had Catherine McKenzie, Head of Tourism, and Glenn Harvey here in Bendigo, who have been really supportive, and about a month ago we had journalists from overseas, and we also had tourist operators from overseas that came on the Blues Tram, and went back, hopefully, back to the UK, China, Italy, Canada, America. We had them from everywhere, and they were very impressed with it, which we like. Hopefully, when people do come to Bendigo, like you're saying, with the rich history of it, that it's not just the talking tram they can go on. The talking tram, there's a restaurant tram, There's the blues tram, there's the Shallow Arts Series tram, Jimmy Possum. They're all of those different experiences they can have in different trams. Yeah,
and it's good that even though the festival is just this one weekend in November, it's good that the tram does happen all year round.
Yeah, that's right, and that's what we try to use as a promotional vehicle, and also give people a taste, if they want to come on there, taste of the sort of music that they'll hear at the festival. And those musicians that perform on the Blues Tram. Mind you, we have a waiting list now, which is pretty incredible, of people, and from the likes of, we've had Jeff Atchison, Lloyd Spiegel, some world-class Australian blues performers on the Blues Tram, and there's a lot of people who are putting up their hand wanting to perform on it.
Some of the feedback I've heard from artists who have performed on the tram is that playing their instruments and performing whilst in motion is a very different experience.
It is. Oh yeah. You have to centre yourself. I think Jimmy Williams, who's a local, most people probably know Jimmy Williams, musician. When we had him on the Blues Tram, he had his piano keyboards there, and he did a fantastic job. He hardly moved. And I had to say, you're used to it. And he was actually a conductor in a previous life on the trams through the 60s and 70s in Melbourne, so he knew how to handle himself on the tram. But it's not really so much of an issue. I think it's a different experience for them, and they, within the first 15 minutes or 20 minutes, they get used to it.
Yeah, I guess it's just adapting to it, and then once you're there, it's really the same thing as what they're normally doing.
Yeah, and the nicest comments I've heard actually from the very first, it was Shannon Bourne, who was on our first blues tram that we ever ran with Talisa Job, and Shannon said to the people we had on board, he said, do you appreciate how unique and how well constructed this thing is, and the workmanship in it? And most people wouldn't. You sit in there, and he said, and this is probably the best music venue I've ever played in. And it has. It's like he said, it was like it was built back in the 1920s and 30s to actually have music on board. Whether it's a combination of the timber and the metal and the leather or vinyl, I don't know, but it is a very nice sound on there.
Yeah, it does actually have a really good sound, and the changing scenery as well is a nice little touch. It's not that often you're going to a concert, and if you look out the window, there's the cathedral, or another one of Bendigo's landmarks.
You learn to appreciate the sights of Bendigo, because you're normally just driving straight past them. Here you've got the music happening, and at the same time you can take in the sights, which you're only going very slowly. So
Yep.
it is a very, very nice experience.
I guess it's a side of Bendigo that a lot of locals don't normally see. As a local myself, to see my hometown from that angle.
Yeah, and it's again a little bit of a hint of the festival too, because the festival's based on that, having the venues primarily around the centre of Bendigo, and people walking around, going to the different venues, and the trams going past with music coming from it. And that's the feedback we had from the first two festivals, where I thought it was just there's music coming out of different little bars or venues, and then the tram goes past, there's music, and they get to just walk around and soak it all up. The tram is a big part of that.
It is amazing how this, especially the centre of Bendigo, does change with the festival. Can you tell me about your first involvement with it?
Yeah, well, I was an accountant in a previous life, and I used to do a tax return for a bloke called Colin Thompson, who's our festival director, and he came to me with an idea about after I'd retired, about doing a blues festival, a blues and roots music festival. And what did I think? And I thought, fantastic idea, but a lot of work. So, and the way he wanted to approach it was as more of a holistic type thing, more of a family bent, and to try to make it free. That's hard.
Yeah.
So he's had his vision, and I think we've been together 5 years working together with the festival, and we have our moments where we think I should be going that direction, and Cole wants to go in that direction. But he does an amazing job putting all the talent together. He's got a very strong vision of what he wants to do with it, and that's great. We have a fantastic team of volunteers now that help out with it. We've always looking for, which is always the hard thing, that's to finance something that you're going to do for nothing, because there's nothing for nothing. But we have got a lot of financial support, particularly for this festival. We did in the very first festival, a couple of lean years in between. But I think we've established ourselves now, and we're on the map, and people know of it around Victoria and Australia. We have people from all over Australia come to it, and it is unique. We don't go for the headline acts either. I mean, I think it's easy to go, and it's not easy. It costs you a lot of money to do it. But we've got so much great talent here in Australia in the blues and roots scene. There's lots of great local people around anyway that play, and lots of great music venues. But people will go away and say, look, I didn't realise that person was from Central Victoria. I didn't realise they were from Melbourne or Sydney, or are they from overseas? No, these are Australian musicians. So.
Yeah, there's so much rich talent around, and
it is.
And the rest of the year, a lot of these people are, that they might only be playing at, local pubs and whatever in their area, or doing sort of smaller tours. So it's great that there's such a large scale festival that they can all come to, and they can meet each other as well.
Yeah, and one of the Chris Wilson, who again was on our main stage last year actually, and Chris is a man of few words. Chris Wilson, he doesn't say too much. But he was actually talking about the festival, and financially it is hard, because Colin has to put together the main stage and get people for the right price. We have a limited budget, and people like Chris Wilson, again, some of the big acts in Australia don't come cheaply. He's one that will pretty much play at our festival for a much reduced price, because he loves playing at it. Because it is what it is. It's a unique festival. It's held in town. Essentially, it's free. There are some venues that do have a bit of a cover charge, but essentially it's a free festival, and he loves that aspect of it. And if he was playing at other festivals where there are more of a commercial venture, and that's fine, because those guys do it very, very well, as like Groove and the Moose and the Denny Ute Musters and the Blues Festival. But they're big commercial ventures. He's happy to charge what he has to charge. But it's nice that those other performers like Jeff Atchison, Lloyd Spiegel, and Chris Wilson will play at our festival, play on the Blues Tram for money that we'd be paying a lot more.
That is one of the good things about the tram and the festival and sort of everything associated with it, actually, is that even though that everyone putting it on are volunteers, the performers are being paid, because it's very hard to come by a paying gig a lot of the times if you're trying to make a living as a musician. So it's good that that is offered.
Well, you're right. It is a popular myth that the reason we do this is that no one gets paid anything. That's an absolute myth. I mean, of the 100-odd performers that will play over the festival, every single one gets paid, and they're paid their going rate, whatever they normally ask for. That's what they love about the festival too. They know they'll come here, they'll have 2 or 3 gigs to play. They'll be paid at the end of the night when they finish on the knocker, and they go away. And we made an absolute point of that because we want them to go away and say, look, this is a great festival, it's well run. When you do play, you will get paid.
You said this is the 5th year, is that right?
This is the 5th year, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Roslyn Park is the free festival we put on, the family one.
Yep.
That runs between about 12 and 7. That's our main stage, and we had it the first year in Roslyn Park, and we just made the assumption that we could use Roslyn Park every year. So second year, we're all set to go, and we get a call from the City of Greater Bendigo to say, I'm sorry, the rotunda has been booked for a wedding. And we didn't realise we had to book. Colin didn't. We approached the people that are having the wedding saying, well, would you mind going elsewhere? A bit hard. Do you mind if we play the background music for your wedding over a period of 7 hours or 8 hours? None of that was going to work. So we actually ended up, and it was good because we ended up with a second venue, which is the Civic Gardens. And they both have their pluses and minuses. And the Civic Gardens worked out well for that event, and we've held it there twice now, but we're back in Roslyn Park this year. Everything else runs really smoothly. It's a tribute to Cole. He puts a lot of work into organising all of the acts and the venues and the volunteers on the day. There's enormous. We probably struggle with volunteers throughout the year, but on the day of the festival, no, we have a terrific team of people looking after sound, backline. It's a huge task. I mean, if people think about it, with over 30-odd venues, and they need to be looked after and set up, and there's a lot of work in the lead up, a lot of work over that weekend itself as well.
Colin himself, he is a very busy man. To say so, he puts in so much of himself into the festival, considering he also has a job, and he's also got a young family.
That's right. He does. He really. I suppose the worry there is that we don't want to see him get into strife with illness or anything, because I don't know what we do without him. But he has got a good team now with people, and we've got very good systems in place compared to the first year. He had a massive big whiteboard that he planned everything out on, which has now disappeared, and now he's gone to the digital technology, he's gone on the computer and doing all of that. But no, a lot of work, and you can imagine there's just everyone sending in their thinks that they want to play at this festival, but there's a process that they need to go through. They need to be reviewed, looked at. They send in DVDs, their music, and there's just so many talented people out there and great people. Who do you accept for the festival, and who do you knock back? So he does a terrific job doing that, and I think I haven't heard of any complaints of people going away not being happy with the people that they've seen at the festival.
I think that grassroots attitude from year one has travelled very well over the 5 years as well. Yeah. Now, the next Blues Tram is the 25th of September, is that right?
There's one coming up on the 25th. That's one in conjunction with Rocks on Roslyn.
Yep.
Buy tickets through the Visitor Information Centre. Then our next Blues Trams after that will be over the festival itself in November.
We're really looking forward to it. Thank you, Julius. It's been a pleasure having a local chat with you.
Thank you very much, Ray.
And all of the links to the Blues Festival will be right below. If you just scroll down a little bit below this podcast, you'll be able to find the links. Of course, you can find this podcast and other podcasts that I've done at www.thenewlocal.net. Find me on Twitter @thenewlocal, and click on that link for my Patreon as well. Thank you.